All right, 8th graders, I'm super behind at life, so I'm going to try to keep this short for both of our well-being. So proportion refers to the natural relationship, is what you guys should have written in here. Sorry, I went through kind of fast in that other presentation, so if you haven't written that in, write in relationship. And then the average human is 7.5 heads tall, okay? And I'm going to show you how to break down those 7.5 heads, all right? First thing you guys are going to do is an oval for the head. And then we're going to do the spine and the shoulder line. If someone is standing up straight, these will both be straight perpendicular lines. If you don't remember what perpendicular means, it means they cross at a 90-degree angle, meaning these angles here are 90 degrees, okay? So I'm going to do a perfectly straight shoulder line, or sorry, center line down. This will end at the hip line, or also known as line 4, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Then the shoulder line is going to be kind of right in the middle in this zone, okay? All right, now after you draw your shoulder line and your center line, we are going to draw in the hip joint and the shoulder joints. The hip joint should be kind of right above line 4, right here, okay? And the shoulders should be slightly wider than the hips. For a male, they'll definitely be wider for the hips. You'll also want to do a little bit larger shoulder joint. I'm going to do a half male, half female drawing for you guys so you can see the differences between the two. On the female side, the shoulders are always a little bit narrower set. Even for a particularly muscular female, the shoulders are just not as broad. It's not as wide of a shoulder span. So I'm going to do a little bit smaller of a shoulder joint there. This part is really different from male to female. This is probably the biggest difference, is for a male torso, the shoulder will come straight on a diagonal down into the hips. For a female, it'll usually have a little bit more curvature to it, okay? Whether you're skinny or whether you're curvy, it's usually just a different shape from male to female as far as torso is concerned. For the trap muscles, you're going to curve off the top here to make the top of the torso. And then we're going to draw the neck. For a male neck, the neck should be really close to the edge of the head. And for a female, it will come in just slightly, okay? Notice that when I drew my neck, I didn't draw it perfectly straight like a 4x4. Instead, I have them slightly curve out just a little bit like that. It makes the neck look like it has muscles in there and tendons, which it does in fact have. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw in some stick figure legs, but then don't worry, we will go back and give them muscles. So see this one right down here that says under knee? So that would be line 6. What we're going to do with the under knee is we're going to draw our knee right over that line. So I'm going to do a straight line down and then just draw in an oval for the knee, okay? Right now, male and female parts are looking about exactly the same, okay? Down here, the ankle bone is going to be right on this line, maybe right below it. And then I'm going to do 2 versions of feet, okay? I'm going to have one where a foot goes out to the side, kind of like this. And then this one is going to be a foot that's facing you, okay? All right, so the foot that's facing you kind of looks like the shape of, I guess like a house, but then it connects to the ankle bone. You don't see the top of the house. Make sure that you do the feet large enough. That's everybody's #1 problem is they do the feet and hands and they draw them like teeny tiny Polly Pocket hands. So make sure they're big enough. The length of the foot should be the equivalent of the knee to the ankle. That should be the same, okay? Now let's give these legs some muscles. How we're going to do that? Overlapping ovals, okay? There's a couple of things about this oval that I want you to take a mental note of. First of all, it overlaps the knee, it overlaps the hip. Second of all, it lines up with the outside edge of the hip, okay? You wouldn't want to have a hip like this and then have thighs sitting inside really skinny like that. Nope. You want the thighs to line up to the outside edge of the hip to be a little bit wider, okay? Don't do those little skinny inside guys. All right, so male and female thighs, not a whole lot difference in size there. They're going to be about the same. I'm going to scoop my knees up just a skosh. I'm going to have that line be just a little bit lower, okay? All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the calf. For the foot that's pointed out sideways, you will see a little bit more of a straight line on this side and a round calf muscle out this way. On this one where the foot is facing you, the calf is simply going to be wider at the top, narrower at the bottom, okay? I'm not even really so much drawing an oval for that one as I am just kind of connecting. So the sideways one kind of looks like this. And then the forward one, you can say this is your ankle bone, just gets wider at the top, narrower at the bottom, okay? All right, so there's some legs. Now we're gonna draw arms. Imagine that your belly button is on this line, line 3, all right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna curve up. I'm gonna draw an arc that goes right through here. That is gonna give you the position of your elbows, okay? So on one, I'm just gonna have the hand down. On the other one, I'm gonna have the hand on the hip. Of course, the female side is going to be hand on the hip. Don't you feel like it looks like a sassy female pose? Okay, I don't know, anyway. So I'm going to draw a large elbow joint for the male. For the female, because I'm going to have this arm kind of up and on the hip, I'm going to raise that elbow up a little bit and a smaller elbow joint, okay? The larger you draw the shoulder joint and the elbow joint, the more muscular this arm is going to look. Just FYI for future reference, okay? Now, if you have your hand just down at the side, your wrist will end up lining up with the bottom of the hip. So your wrist will actually line up with line 4 as well, okay? All right, so I have my straight lines, I have my joints. Oh, let me draw a wrist joint in here. I'm gonna put a fist right here. The fist is basically just the shape of a trapezoid, kind of like that, okay? And it connects to the wrist. All right, on this hand, I'm actually also going to draw a trapezoid for the back of the hand, but then I'm also going to draw an upside down trapezoid for the fingers. You should be ending about mid-thigh with your hand. That's where hands go down to. Don't make them too small. All right, let's do some ovals over these for muscles on the arms. So again, when we did the thigh, we overlapped the knee, we overlapped the hip. Same thing with the bicep. I'm gonna overlap the elbow. I'm gonna overlap the shoulder joint with a big bicep muscle. Kind of a little bit leaner on the female side, even for a muscular female, just a little bit longer and leaner. Now the elbow is very different. What's gonna happen with the elbow is you're gonna do it like a chicken leg shape where it's kind of like this, like wider at the top, narrower at the bottom. But what you're gonna do with that shape is you're gonna start from the top of the elbow joint and then go down to the wrist like this, guys, okay? So there's the male forearm and then the female forearm. Because the elbow is smaller, it will automatically start off with a smaller forearm, okay? So guys, that's pretty much it with the figure. What you would do now is you would go in and you would kind of smooth up the outlines, kind of cleaning them up, making them look more uniform, more connected, less choppy. And then we would go in later and I'll show you how to start adding on like clothing. Basically, whenever you add clothing, you're just gonna need to make sure that you add it with curves. So like if this is the end of a sleeve, you wanna have a little curve there because it's going around a rounded form or a cylinder. If you're having a boot that's a little bit wider, start with an ellipse around the leg, a little bit wider. You could draw on a boot there, okay? So I'll show you a little bit more detail on clothing later, but that's the basic gist.